Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Odyssey House Journals. I'm Randall Carlisle, your host, and Nicole Slack is my co-host. Hello, Nicole.
Hello.
And Al Richards is our guest. Welcome, Al.
Thank you, Randall and Nicole. Thank you so much for giving me a second opportunity.
Well, now that he brought that up, it shows you how shallow and that I have anger sometimes, is that I had lined up Al as a podcast guest maybe a year and a half ago.
It's been a while,
something like that.
Yeah.
And we had him scheduled at a certain time, and he just didn't show up. And then your excuse was,
I had no excuse. I just flat forgot it. I mean, I was so busy, and you called me, and it's like, "Are you on your way?" And I went, "Oh, crap."
So the vindictive side of Randall said, well, screw him. We're not going to have him on a podcast ever again. But the gentle recovery side of Randall ran into Al at a fundraiser, and we talked, and so Al's back. So
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry.
Well, thank you.
Well, it's just, but see, now there's honesty, right?
It only took you a year and a half to get over it. That's good.
Now you're making fun of me.
I had no excuses. I literally totally forgot. So it was my bad. The old me, I would have come up with some kind of excuse, but the new me, it's like, no,
God,
I
was in a wreck on the. I was driving in, but I didn't. Yeah.
My dog ate my homework. I cannot come to the podcast.
Well, anyway, the reason, now that we're done with the flaws in my character, which I've since corrected and I'm perfect now.
Yeah.
The reason we have Al on is Al is really big on spreading the word about recovery in a number of ways. To describe everything, I was looking, I Googled you, and I was looking at all the things you do, and you do a heck of a lot of things.
Yeah, I did a talk up in Park City about 3 months ago at a Wellness Alliance, and somebody asked me what got me on this path, and I said, really, God got me on this path. My ex-wife, who has battled alcoholism, is the one that really got me started on this. It was the reason to start my podcast. And as I started interviewing so many amazing people like you guys do, I started realizing I was looking at addiction and those who struggle addiction totally wrong. And I started realizing the stories behind it, their journeys. And sometimes I get emotional even talking about it, and I started going, oh my gosh, it's not how I ever thought it was. I think the majority of us look at it as, people battling addiction because they just wake up one day and decide they're going to be a heroin addict or a sex addict or an alcoholic or a food addict, whatever it may be. And
well, I decided that one day, didn't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm going to be an alcoholic now.
Yeah. Yeah. And off, and they go off and start running their career, right? and ruining things in the process.
Yeah.
And so that was the whole purpose of me starting my show. But then as things started going, I just really started just falling in love with the whole recovery community and starting to meet people like yourselves and like Manny, who was in the hall, when I first came in, and his beautiful wife, and Dave DeRoche at the Other Side Academy. And I mean, just so many individuals. And I'm like, my gosh. And I remember one time we was coming home from a show and my wife was with me and she goes, babe, I think you found your why. And I says, you really? And she goes, yeah, I think you found your why. And she was 100% correct. And so now we do the Healing Utah Success Summit, which we just held our fourth one just on October 5th. And
2024, because
2024,
people see these podcasts at different times.
So. Yeah, so we held our first one in August of 2022 in St. George. And now we've gotten 4 in, and it just keeps building. We keep getting amazing speakers. And it's all about people using their voice, education, inspiration. And this year we added in a lot of topics, like I talked about victim mentality. That was my topic that I spoke about. A lot of us who battle addiction, we fall into that victim mentality, right? I'm doing this because of that, or I'm doing it because of this person. We don't want to take our own accountability.
I blamed all my drinking on my 4 ex-wives.
Yeah, I remember
So,
you said that in the show,
so,
you know. And you know, Randall, even when you was on the show, on my show, you know, we titled it My Dirty Little Secret because you said you had a dirty little secret. I had my own dirty little secret too that I didn't even share until January of 2023. And I lost a 24-year career because of my weekend cocaine and alcohol. You know, every Friday and Saturday night, man, that was my gig. I'd work long hours all through the week until Friday.
And I deserve to get high now.
Right? I'm dealing with all this stress, and I hadn't done cocaine for a lot of years and went to a party and did one. And I realized I didn't think about work once. Oh my gosh, this was so great. Yeah. I didn't even stress about what's going to happen on Monday, and here it is Friday. You know, and next thing I knew, I was doing it every Friday and Saturday night for 8 years. And
how'd you finally recover from that?
I lost my job.
Well, okay.
I lost a 24-year career, and
doing what?
I was doing manufacturing.
Okay.
And I worked in maintenance, and I had 43 employees underneath me and had a lot of responsibility, and that was my release of stress. And
so 8 years of cocaine, and then how did that come to an end?
Well,
did you go to a treatment program or?
Never went to any kind of detox, no treatment program, nothing. After I lost my job, I went into depression for a couple weeks, and had a friend call me, and he said, you know, Al, you was a guy that no one ever trusted. Like, what do you mean no one ever trusted me? And he goes, you know, you were considered as a liar and a manipulator. And I called BS on it. I says, oh, bull crap. You know, and then I really started thinking, and I went, holy crap, he's right. You know, I used to lie and manipulate my way from getting my butt kicked as a kid to really owning in the skill, and I mastered it as I started getting older and took it into my adulthood. Didn't even realize I was really doing it, but all I cared about was Al. So whatever Al wanted, Al was going to get, and I didn't care who I had to manipulate, how much I had to lie, how I had to go around people's backs to get it. I did it. And that was the beginning of my journey, just from losing my job and what he said. And I started doing some really deep soul searching. And I went, I don't want to be this guy. I don't want to be this type of person.
That would be so hard to hear.
Oh, it was
about
really
yourself.
hard to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, because you think, no.
Yeah.
That's not me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you for taking it and like for what it was and owning it. And did you do any therapy? Did you?
No, my therapy actually started when I started my show, which was years later, you know, but I didn't. I just...
Is that the Other Side podcast?
Yeah, the Other Side of Addiction, yeah.
And the reason he did that, we was referring, and you were married at the time you started it, right? Mm-hmm. And she is or was an alcoholic, and so I was looking at it from the other side of addiction. It'd be like, you know, like your ex-husband or one of my ex-wives or something talking about us.
No, thank you.
But I didn't know that you were in recovery as well.
Yeah, and you know, it's crazy because, again, my dirty little secret, right? Because even when you said that at the show, in my head, I'm going, yeah, shit, I have one too. And I never shared it until January of last year.
What prompted you to share it?
Dave DeRocher at the Other Side Academy.
Okay.
So I got to share stage with him in St. George. He's very good on stage. Yeah. And I said, hey, when you get some time, when we get back to Salt Lake, I'd like to sit down and talk to you about, you know, I want to learn from you. I want to get some tips because I want to be on stage and grasp people's attention like you did. Well, it took till January before he finally had some time. And I sat in his office with his assistant, Robin Sims, and he's sitting in a chair about as close as you and I are, and he goes, so tell me again why we're meeting. And I says, oh, remember I wanted to pick your brain about being a better speaker. And he goes, can I speak honestly? And I said, yeah. Well, if you guys know Dave, if you give him that permission, you better be ready what comes out of his mouth. However, he does it with love, right? And he was on a chair with rollers, and he grabbed my knee, and he pulled himself right up to my face. And he says, you want to be a powerful speaker, Al? And I says, yeah. And he goes, you start telling your effing story instead of your wife's effing story. And he just laid into me. And, of course, my ego kicks in, and I'm building my wall. And then I realized, wait a minute, I gave this man permission to speak openly. So I finished let him finish what he was doing. Robin happened to be my guest co-host at the studio that day. We go to the studio. The guest that I had, her dog must have ate her homework too, because she did not show. I tried calling, I tried emailing, texting, 20 minutes, nothing. And so Robin goes, I guess no show. And I said, no, we're going to have a show. And I says, I'm going to take Dave's advice. I said, today, Robin, you're the host, I'm the guest. She goes, no way. And I says, please, you're going to host the show. You're going to interview me. And it's the first time I opened up about my story.
You have a lot of very honest people around you.
I do.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very blessed to have the people that God has put in my life that has really, and the old me again, I would have stepped back and my ego would have kicked in and said, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Go screw yourself or whatever. However, I figured the only way I'm going to learn how to grow and to build and to be the person who I really want my legacy to be behind for my grandkids and my daughter is to listen what people have to say, whether I like it or not. And it's paid off.
It's a good lesson for all of
A
us.
very good lesson. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and there's sometimes what I've been told, it's like I just want to go up and headbutt and it's like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, but I push my ego to the side and I think about it a little bit and I'm going, yeah, I could correct this. I could definitely correct it.
Did you feel like something, but when you finally admitted on the podcast talking about your cocaine addiction, did you feel like something had been lifted off you after you said it publicly?
Yes. As a matter of fact, after the show, Robin even said, Al, I was watching you getting lighter and lighter and lighter. And I'm glad that you brought that up, Randall, because I had no clue how much that was holding me back.
Sure.
I mean, it was really holding me back because I kept this secret from everyone. I mean, I snorted cocaine for the 3 years I dated my wife. She had no clue. That's how well I...
Well, you were criticizing her for being an alcoholic.
She wasn't an alcoholic at the time.
Oh, okay.
No, she wasn't an alcoholic. So we switched roles, right? As I was coming out of mine, she was going into hers.
Okay.
Yeah. Now that really would have been asked if that would have been the case. Yeah. But no, she had no clue. She had no clue.
And see, I had, because of the fact that I was a TV anchor for so long, and I was never drunk on the air or drunk when I went to work, but I was drunk. I passed out every night after that, and I didn't want to admit. Excuse me.
Bless you.
How about that? Right on camera. And I didn't want to admit that I was a functional alcoholic because I figured people would then think that when they had been watching me on TV that I was drunk. And I wasn't, because that's a presumption somebody would make. If a TV anchor says, I'm a functional alcoholic, they say, God, when I was watching, he didn't act drunk, or something like that. And it took me a couple of years to talk about it publicly because I was concerned about the same thing. And the other thing I was concerned about when I completed my IOP program the second time, uni, at the time, I knew the main fundraiser for them, and she said, "Would you do a bunch of commercials for us, saying something like, I got sober at Recovery Works at uni," and I thought, and so that stroked my ego a little, and then I thought about it, and I thought that would put horrible pressure on me because I wasn't comfortably sober for more than a few months after that, and going on TV again saying something it would just mean that I had to stay sober, which would probably prompt me to drink because I felt that, and so I turned her down.
Yeah.
Because when you put pressure on somebody to perform like that, it doesn't end up well frequently.
Well, and it's like you said, I think it's that fear of what we're thinking other people are thinking.
Exactly.
And because when we did our April Healing Utah Success Summit, our second one in 2023, I shared my story for the very first time. That was my talk. And we had less speakers, so I had an hour to talk, and I shared my story.
Wow.
I had my mom in the audience, and I had my aunt and uncle in the audience. It's the first time they heard it. So here I'm going, I'm going to get up on stage and I'm going to tell my story, and my mom and my aunt and uncle, who are very close to me, is going to hear what their nephew and their son's been doing and why he lost a 24-year career. And I tell you what, man, my heartbeat is,
I'll bet.
it was going. However, Dave was completely right. You know, the more I was able to share my story instead of telling my ex-wife's story, Dave was 100% right. That's her story to tell, not my story. That's her journey, not my journey. And I still touch on it, but I don't go into the depths of it like I did before because, again, it's her story. And that was more bricks off my shoulder when that happened. And I kept thinking, like, okay, wonder what mom's going to say now. You know, I knew my aunt and uncle wouldn't say anything, but my mom, she was like, I knew something happened to you. I knew it. I had a feeling, you know, and it's like, okay, Mom.
Yeah. When you lost your career because of cocaine, but not talking about it publicly, what did you tell people why you weren't doing what you were doing anymore?
I lied to him. You know, yeah, because Al was a liar and a manipulator, right? Okay. So yeah, I just came up with something, and that's how I got past it. Yep. And
see, that just adds more.
Oh, absolutely. You know, yeah.
We've talked about that before. Did you lie and manipulate a lot about the alcohol consumption?
Yeah. No, I don't think you can do that every day and not be lying to everyone around you. So yeah, every day. And myself. I lied to myself.
Well, yeah, that's the most important. And the problem is when you pile lies on top of lies, sometimes you forget what lies you told.
Yeah, I'm not smart enough to be a liar. You have to be really smart to be a liar.
To be a good liar.
To be a good liar.
Right.
Yeah.
If there is such a thing.
I think there are. I think some people do it really well.
How about an accomplished liar?
Yeah, there you go.
Not a good liar.
I'm not smart enough to be an accomplished liar, so. But yeah, I lied a lot, especially to my kids, which is awful.
Did your kids know you were, did your daughter know you were drinking?
Oh, yeah. She...
To excess?
Yes. So she wasn't, towards the end of my addiction, she wouldn't even be around me. She wouldn't come to my apartment. And so I had my son sometimes, and I tried to limit the drinking when I had my son. But if I had anything, she wouldn't be there.
You know, kids bring up such they play such a huge role in things. You know, I've shared a couple times in my talk. So my oldest daughter, she is probably the one person who I have always been 100% honest with. And
even through the cocaine thing?
Yeah, because when I lost my job, she heard and she called me. And she goes, Dad, we need to go out to dinner. So we went out to dinner. She goes, I need to talk to you. And I've always let my daughters know that they could come to me with anything and I'd never get mad at them. I wanted them to be able to trust that they could sit down with me. And she asked me, she goes, I heard you lost your job because of this. And I said, it's true. It's absolutely true. And she was very upset with me, which she had every right. However, she doesn't stay upset with me very long. She can be mad at me. But this is where the blessings come out. And I get emotional sometimes really talking about this because she called me in March of 2023, a couple months after my show, and where I opened up. And I was working on a house in Sandy, and she goes, Dad, you got a minute to talk? And I said, yeah, I got a minute. And she goes, okay, I have something I need to talk to you about, and you're not going to like the first part. And I'm like, okay, where's this going, right? Heart rate's going up again.
No kidding.
Knees are feeling weak, and I'm going, oh my gosh, one of these conversations again. And she goes, you know, when you first started your show, I wanted to support you because I thought you was doing a really good thing. And she goes, however, as I started listening to a lot of your shows, you were always playing the victim. And she goes, you know, your guests were victim, but she says you was also playing a victim. And she goes,
you sort of were.
Yeah, and
that's true.
Exactly.
The name of the show, The Other Side of Addiction.
Yeah.
You think of, because you're talking about your wife.
Yeah. Yep. So again, I'm See, I'm keeping my dirty little secret, right? And
Right.
so when I open up, so she goes, I got Dad to where I did not want to support you anymore. Now, coming from your daughter saying they did not want to support you when you've done everything you can to support them throughout all their stuff, you know? And she goes, I wanted to support your show. I just didn't want to support you. She goes, Dad, you was a victim, right? Not saying, because you went through a lot of crap with my spouse that I was with. But she goes, the other day I'm in my kitchen, and she goes, I'm going through podcasts, and one of yours pop up, and instead of seeing your face, I see this girl's face, and it was Robin. And she goes, well, that's weird. Why isn't Dad on the show? And then down at the bottom, the title said, Own Your Own Shit. She's like, what the heck is this? So she clicked on it. This is where I get emotional, because she goes, Dad, I listened to that show. And she goes, I called to tell you I'm so proud of you for opening up. Because she goes, I've known your story. And she goes, I am now one of your biggest supporters. So that blessing, right, where they see you get sober, or they see you open up and tell your story and be honest and be vulnerable, it changes so many things. You know, all those bricks that was falling off my shoulder that day in the studio when I told my story, and even when I've done my public speaking and told it, to now hear it come from your daughter.
Yeah.
And it's something that is one of the greatest feelings for me that I have felt throughout this whole journey that I've done in the past 15 years.
That's awesome that you were repairing something that you didn't even know was broken.
Yeah. And it all became, it all started because of Dave being honest with me, and I took his advice. If I wouldn't have took his advice, none of that would have ever happened. Yeah. I'd still be doing the same thing over, I'd be saying, oh, my finances are because of you, and it's because of you, and it's because of you, right? It's not because of me, my actions, because I'm still holding everything in. And once I was able to release all that, this whole new world opened up for me.
I think that's true of if the people who succeed in our program, if you think about it, are the people who are the most honest about their situation, their past, and their all that kind of, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, there's a saying in the houses that secrets keep you sick. So if you're still holding on to that, those are old habits, things we need to leave behind. Put it all out there, and what do you have to lose?
If you think if you're at the point that you're in residential treatment, you don't have a lot to lose by being honest,
Yeah.
Except, but all of us hold in stuff that we're embarrassed about or ashamed of, and don't want to talk about it. And it becomes easier and easier the more you talk about it to keep talking about it, right?
Yeah. I told someone a couple years ago, she called me up and was talking about some things that's been going on, and I mentioned to her, I said, you know what? If you come out, well, actually, it wasn't a couple of years ago. It was after I had opened up myself. And I says, once you open up, no one can dangle that carrot over your head ever again. And actually, you have more empathy from individuals because you did open up, right? So
yeah, it'd
get
be
it
like,
out.
were you cocaine addict?
Right.
Go, yeah, I just said I was.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, what can people say?
What could they're stuttering, right? Because they don't have anything to throw
no
at
power
you. There's no
behind
more.
it.
There's no more power.
Yeah.
You take control of your own life again by doing that.
It's somebody told me, and because we used to have confrontations with bosses in TV newsrooms all the time, and I was always a fighter. And I'd say, that didn't happen, or there was a reason this happened, or that kind of stuff. And they said, you know what? The boss is rather arrogant and likes to be patted on the back. So if he tells you you screwed up somehow, just look at him and say, you're right, it won't happen again. Because they screamed and yelled in TV news all the time. And somebody's saying, and you go, you're right, I did mess up and it won't happen again. And it's like, all of a sudden, what can you say? Okay.
Yeah.
So you were an addict? Okay, fine.
Yeah.
I admitted it. You're part of I was reading, you're part of some coalition or something? Something called the Addiction Resilience Collective?
Oh, yeah. So ARC, nicknamed ARC, which stands for Addiction Resilience Collective, it was a networking group I started last February 2023. I was invited to other networking groups for the recovery community. And everyone that goes to this is somebody that works in recovery, whether they run a recovery center or they work at a recovery center or a sober living. And a lot of people know everyone, right?
Right.
So I got thinking one day, and I'm like, well, this is really cool, right? It's really good, but there's so many new things out there now that are helping people recover. You know, AA has worked miracles and has saved thousands and thousands
Millions.
of lives. Millions, yeah, because it's been going on for so long. But it's not for everyone, right? Like Al-Anon wasn't a fit for me. I went to 3 Al-Anon meetings. I walked out of the third one. I says, I'll never show my face here again. And I haven't. So it's like, what are these other resources that are out there? Because people that I've interviewed have gone to 8 to 10 to 13 to 14 different recovery centers till they finally found the one that just worked. Well, all this other stuff is out there. Science is coming up with so many new things that's helping people. And I thought, what if I got a networking group together and invited people that knew trauma, mental health, yoga, meditation, fitness, nutrition, also recovery centers. What if we bring all these people together in one group so they get to know one another and know what else is out there that can help individuals? So if someone goes to your place and says, Nicole, you know, I'm just struggling. This is just not a fit for me. And you ask them some questions and you hear something that go, you know what? You know, it's sad to hear that this is not a fit for you. However, would you be interested in looking into this? And so, and it would be vice versa, right? That other person having someone that doesn't fit and go, okay, refer you to, you know, and it's like, I think it would be really good so people know who's out there and what's out there.
Is this collective still together or not?
It's still together. We have hit and miss meetings.
Okay.
You know, the first one that I had, my gosh, we had 30-something people come, and it was awesome. And it kind of dwindled from there, and then I brought on another team, and we still hold meetings here and there. But it's something that I'm hoping as time rolls, it will just continue to grow.
If somebody wanted to get a hold of you to be a speaker or something, how would they contact you?
They could reach out to me through email at mralrichards@gmail.com.
Mr.
Al Richards.
at gmail.com.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming. I appreciate you showing up when you said you were going to come.
Yeah, well, yeah, I made sure I wasn't going to miss this one because I thought, man, if I miss this one, Randall's put me on his blacklist. I'm done.
I'm way past that, but I'm glad I ran into you at that fundraiser.
Yeah, me too.
So you could say that. So now we can say you're in recovery from cocaine addiction. Wow.
Yeah.
And say it with pride. Right?
And say it. Yeah, say it with pride and get it out there. And it happened. And, you know, it happened the way it was supposed to happen. God knew exactly what direction he was going with me. And I didn't like it at first, but I tell you what, I am doggone blessed that I'm at where I'm at.
Good for you. And thank you for all you do.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good to see you again, Nicole.
You too.
And thank you for watching or listening to another edition of Odyssey House Journals.